Whoa, a lot of people watched the first part. If that's the case, I should probably do some cleaning up around here. That's better. Anywho, hello everyone, I am Quantum, and welcome to my Mind Palace. This is the second part of my Yandere Simulator redesign series. I highly recommend watching the first part if you haven't already so that you can follow along with the story. Today, we will be focusing on the first three rivals, Osana, Amai, and Kizana. A bit of a disclaimer, I ended up getting a new drawing program in the middle of working on this video, so the recording will look different after Osana's section of the video. With that out of the way, let's get into it. So, before I get into my Osana redesign, I want to tell you all a little story. When I was in 5th grade, a friend of mine was super into AFMAO. She did the thing that every child does on the internet, where she assigned each of the people in our friend group with an AFMAO character. She made herself AFMAO, she made our other friend Kawaii-chan because her favorite color was pink, and I was Caitlin. Now, I wasn't crazy into AFMAO as a kid. I watched Minecraft Diaries Season 1 and Origins, and that was it. So I had to do some research to see who Caitlin was. And according to what I found, I saw that she was a tsundere. And I latched onto that like crazy. It became my whole personality. I was unironically acting like a tsundere for at least 2 years, and I apologize to everyone who had to deal with me. The point of this story is when I first got into Yandere Simulator and I saw Osana, I was obsessed. She was just like me for real. And my interest in this game and Osana is partially why I ended up acting like a tsundere even after my friend's AFMAO obsession died down. But as time went on and I matured, things changed. When Osana officially came out and was in the game, I noticed something. She was so incredibly annoying. How does Taro put up with her? She's so unlikable towards him. It seems that the only time she isn't being awful to him is when they're having serious conversations. Like how when you're doing the method of sabotaging all of her scripted events, it's implied that they call every night to talk through what happened, but that's also not something we ever get to see. You can make a tsundere character who is likable. For example, in Toradora, one of the main characters, Taiga, is a tsundere. I think she's considered one of the most well-known tsunderes. In the show, they give an explanation as to why she is the way she is. And even when talking to the person she likes, she's not even actually mean. It's often her saying something out of habit and then going back on it or something like that. Osana does not have these redeeming qualities, and she also doesn't act like a tsundere to everyone like Taiga does. It's only to Taro, so she's just particularly awful to him. So, let me talk about how I plan to change her. First things first, I'm not making her a tsundere. She's just going to be a generally aggressive person. She doesn't try to be mean, she just has an angry resting face. Everything she says comes off as upset, but it's never her intention. She's only fully comfortable around her two best friends, Taro and Raibaru, and Hanako, Taro's little sister. She's got a bit of an edge around Taro and Raibaru, but she is the biggest sweetheart when it comes to Hanako. The way that they met was that Taro used to get bullied when he was little because he was short and skinny. Osana herself had been bullied not too long before that, but she learned that if she stood up for herself, she could scare them off. When she saw Taro, she helped him out by scaring off his bullies as well. From that day forward, the two became friends. Since Taro did most of the work raising his sister, Osana often helped him out in things that he wasn't familiar with. Osana is basically a part of their family. And with all of that, I've fixed Osana's biggest problem. Now, I want to talk a little bit about game mechanics. Why in the world do you only get 1 week to take down a rival? How is a new player meant to go about playing this game without relying heavily on the tutorials and the godforsaken panty shots to buy said tutorials? Answer? You basically can't. Back when I used to play this game, the way that I got through was by watching people's playthroughs and memorizing Osana's schedule. If you want to play this game without the tutorials or watching anyone else's playthrough, the best course of action would be to play through the week once, learn Osana's schedule, and then reset the game and use what you learned to beat it. Obvious critique incoming. You shouldn't have to waste your time learning Osana's schedule just to have to reset and go through the whole week again. But I have an easy fix for this. Yes, it's a common one, but it's so obvious. Let each rival take up 2 weeks. If Japanese school is similar to America in any way, then it probably has more than 20 weeks making up the school year. I tried looking this up to confirm it, but I couldn't find an exact answer. But I'm pretty sure it has more than 20 weeks, so this leaves room for each rival to get 2 weeks, and then have an epilogue at the end with the remaining time you have left in the year. Now, how would these 2 weeks function? Well, Osana would be a little different than the rest of them, considering that she's the first. The very first week of the game would be the tutorial week. The player would naturally be taught all of the mechanics while also learning Osana's schedule at the same time. I have a whole idea for Kiora, who is my version of Info-chan, and how she would help out, but I'll get into that a bit later in the video so I can focus on Osana for now. Anyway, as I said, the first week would be you stalking Osana, learning her schedule, figuring out the tools you have access to, and then the next week would be you executing the plan that you've come up with. Last thing of note before I move on, I'm changing up the matchmaking mechanic. Mostly just that there will be a female and male option for each rival. It doesn't matter which one you choose, there's no consequences for either, it's just up to you and which character you like more with the rival. Most of the matchmaking options will be completely original characters, but a few of them will be characters already in the game. For example, the female matchmaking option for Osana is Raibaru. It's become such a joke at this point that Raibaru has the biggest crush on Osana. She follows her everywhere, is super protective of her, and insists on dressing like her. If that's not lesbian's first girl crush, I don't know what is. She's still pretty much the same, just less of an unstoppable force. She's still an ex-martial arts club member, and her and Osana are gym buddies. I also decided to take Osana's cutesy style and give it to Raibaru. For the male option, I'm ignoring the one already in the game. I'm not really interested in the idea of hooking up the rivals with people they don't even know. I want to make it that all of the matchmaking options are people that have some sort of pre-existing relationship with the rival. Isao is one of Taro's best friends. Taro has a little friend group that will come up a few times in later videos. Isao and Taro met when they were 11 or 12. This meant that he also met Osana at this time. And Isao instantly falls in love with her. He loves that she's this strong and independent girl who could totally beat him up. He doesn't want to take care of her or anything. He just wants to support her while she goes off to be a girl boss. I love them. And now, I can finally stop talking about Osana and move on. Next up, we've got Amai. Amai is a character I had a lot of trouble with, because she's always been one of my favorite rivals, just based on the fact that her design is the least egregious. This redesign is more about making her more interesting. One of my biggest issues is that all of the rivals, Taro and Ayano, feel like they're living in a completely different world from the rest of the school. Yandere Dev is obsessed with writing random backstories and world-building stuff instead of working on his game. it wouldn't be such an issue if he weren't awful at his job. But even with all of these backstories, they don't mean anything. None of the students really matter. And that's something I want to fix. You don't have to be able to connect with every single student, but just making a few of them more fleshed out and important to the major characters would make this world feel so much more alive. Amai in the normal game is an incredibly sweet person. Everyone loves her. So I find it very strange that she has some sort of beef with all people who are either interested in the occult or just goth. From my understanding, it's because there's another bakery run by this girl who dresses in gothic Lolita. I just find it really weird that Amai harbors such a hatred to all goth people just because of this one gothic Lolita girl. So I'm completely scrapping it. For my rewrite, I'm giving her a younger sister. There's a character in the game named Sakura. In her character description, it's said that she has some kind of incurable disease that will cause her to pass away before her 30s. She tries to spend all of her time enjoying life while she still can. This backstory is very sad, but again, it means nothing in the grand scheme of things. Sakura isn't an important character, and this story that could easily be compelling is put to waste. So for my rewrite, Sakura is Amai's little sister. Sakura got diagnosed when she and Amai were kids. While their parents were devastated at the news, Amai was determined to stay strong and make sure that Sakura's life would be full of fun. She goes out of her way to make sure that Sakura is included in group activities. Along with this, she also has a habit of picking out loners at school and becoming friends with them. This is one of the main reasons she would fall for Taro, since he has a tendency to do the same thing. Now, with this trait of hers, it would actually cause her to approach Ayano first. Amai is very observant and aware of her surroundings. It's very hard to lie to her. This would kind of be her replacement for a bodyguard. I feel like having a bodyguard for every single rival would eventually get boring, so I would use Amai as an opportunity to introduce a new mechanic. Currently, I'm simply calling this mechanic Connections. As the game would go on, each rival would have more characters in the school that are connected to them. For Osana, it's only Taro, Raiburu, and Isao. For Amai, it would be Taro, her two matchmaking options, Sakura, and her club. The connections would present both pros and cons, both of which are pretty easy to guess. More connections means more people to get information on your rival from, but it also means more people that will be affected depending on the elimination method you choose. For her two matchmaking options, I created two new characters. There's Junie, who is a part of the martial arts club, and Akihiko, who's in the photography club. I don't have any extensive lore about the two of them. If you want to, you can suggest some ideas in the comments. For now, here's strong woman and sweet boy for your travels. So, the last rival we'll be going over is Kizana. My thoughts for her are very simple. Theater kid. Make her weird. Yes, she's rich, but she's not a snob about it. Honestly, she hates being rich. She would much rather live in a middle-class family where she doesn't have to go to fancy parties and stuffy clothes and talk to people she doesn't like. Speaking of which, one of these parties would be exactly how she meets Taro. Since his family is also pretty well off, he would end up attending and would talk with Kizana. They would both be relieved to find someone else who understands their struggles with their family's expectations. Taro would offer her his number, saying that if she ever wanted to relax for a bit, he would make time for her. For the design, I decided that she would be the type to add accessories in order to make the uniform more unique. I gave her a corset belt with a cardigan tucked into it, which is actually an outfit I often wear. As you can see from the references, her hair was inspired by Heather Chandler from the musical Heathers. I imagine that Kizana would be the type of person to very loudly advertise her club's performances, no matter what role she's playing. It's very common for her to break into song with her clubmates. If you want to find a time where she's mostly quiet, all you have to do is locate her 2 matchmaking options. For the male option, it's a boy named Toji who's in the sports club. He doesn't speak very much and often has a tendency to accidentally scare people, but he really just wants someone who will yap about their special interests while he works on something. The female option is a quiet girl named Chiriko, who often spends her time in the library. Kizana takes a special interest in flirtatiously teasing this girl, but is also content with simply reading or studying with her. I believe that's all I have to say about Kizana, so let's move on. Now, you may be thinking, Quantum, you talked about 3 characters. Why is there still more video left? Well, dear viewer, when writing the script, I ended up going on a tangent during osana section, and I realized it was way too much to fit there, so I moved it to the end of the video. I brought it up earlier. I want to take a moment to discuss Kiora, aka Infochan, and how she could function in my hypothetical rewrite. In the normal game, you can go to Infochan to purchase schemes and items. These schemes are big blocks of text that you have to follow perfectly or the game will probably break and you'll have to start all over. Obviously, this is boring. This ties into the idea I brought up earlier where you have 2 weeks for each rival. Along with learning the rival's schedule, you would also be learning about the school itself, discovering new locations, items, clubs, etc. You would get to approach Kiora multiple times during the day, in the morning before class, during lunch, after school, and at home. Doing this would show you a Persona 5 style menu, where you can both ask her for information on something, or discuss ideas of what you could use said information for. The ideas section would be a replacement for the schemes. Instead of giving you a step-by-step guide, she would give you a hint at what to do and where to start. I want this game to feel very open, where the player gets to make the choices on when and how they'll eliminate a rival. I feel that doing this would make the game a lot more fun. And now, finally, we are done. I apologize for this video taking longer than expected. I had a lot going on, but it is now done. If you're interested in hearing more about this story, I would ask that you like the video and subscribe. Thank you for all of the support I got on the first video. I'm really glad people enjoyed it. If you're interested in supporting me more, consider checking out my Ko-fi. Through there, you can either commission me or become a member of the channel to have access to different perks. Thank you for watching the video. I hope you have a lovely day or night depending on where you are, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!